If you're holding XRP, oh boy do I have an interesting story for y'all today. Make sure you press that like button and let's dive right in. So the story starts off with a post from John Deaton, a very well-known lawyer within the XRP community, but nowadays he is so spread out. He's known well across the crypto board for being a person who's fought against a lot of the SEC shenanigans and a lot more. But anyway, so a quote from Brad Garlinghouse, quote, "Ripple didn't prioritize going public because that really didn't make any sense under the previous SEC administration. Maybe that changes in the future," end quote. Now, John Deaton just stated, "I've already stated that I believe we see a Ripple IPO either in the last quarter of the year or the first quarter of next year. The timing depends on how aggressive Paul Atkins is as the SEC chairman. And I predict the appeal gets withdrawn, Ripple pays the fine, and the case is over." So that is actually on its own already a very interesting prediction. John Deaton, one of the most well-known lawyers in crypto, himself states he does believe the SEC will take back their appeal. If you're wondering what the appeal is all about, the lawsuit is officially over, but they're basically thinking of reopening it, or matter of fact, they're kind of reopening it by putting an appeal forward. We've really not heard anything about it for the most part, at least not for the better part of a couple of weeks. And to that notion, we also had the chairman, or I should say ex-chairman of the CFTC, state that now that Trump is going to get into office, Gary Gensler out, Paul Atkins in, they're probably going to withdraw, or at least if he was a betting man, he said he'd bet that they would withdraw their appeal, which is basically just a retry, right? And that would lead Ripple to pay the fine of $130 million I forgot the exact number. And then the case is officially done and over with. Now, if Atkins is confirmed quickly, this could happen in the first quarter of the year. But because Washington moves slowly, it'll likely happen in the second quarter. So why the appeal will be withdrawn? Well, it makes no sense for the SEC to appeal the Ripple decision because as of this point, they won and they're getting a massive fine. Appealing can only bring bad news for the SEC as an institution. The only reason the SEC appealed is because people pushing for appeal, Gensler and his minion Tenriro, got their prima donna feelings hurt by getting their butts kicked by Ripple and 75,000 XRP holders. The appeal makes no sense for several reasons though. First, the Torres decision is a federal district court ruling and is not binding precedent. Two, this basically means that whatever it was said can't be used everywhere necessarily, right? Or at least it's not binding. It could be used, but it's not binding. The Ripple ruling has very low persuasive precedence implications regardless though, so adding it to it. In fact, Judge Rakoff, a fellow district judge, so, even though it's kind of quote unquote local, or at least the same level, I should say, in the same district though, so also local, Southern District of New York, has already distinguished and criticized it. So he basically did not fully agree with whatever the judge previously said. So he went against it. Several legal scholars, Mark Fagel, John Reed Stark, and other experienced intelligence and security lawyers have criticized it. Even though John Reed Stark and I haven't had the best history, I don't agree with him on most parts. Even experienced financial journalists like Charles Gasparino have criticized the decision. So it's not like they have to change it because the precedence is bad. Judge Torres made her ruling very fact-specific and thus only applicable to the facts of the Ripple case. Therefore, the decision itself has very limited persuasive use. Moreover, in her decision denying the intellectual appeal, Judge Torres made clear the decision did not rule that all secondary market sales of digital assets could never constitute the sale of securities. She ruled that the evidence, or lack thereof, presented by the SEC, in the Ripple case, related to secondary sales of XRP did not satisfy the Howey test. Period. She went on to say that there are circumstances that could exist, such as a mass marketing campaign related to the crypto assets like Luna from Danquo, that could satisfy Howey. In her opinion, Judge Torres did not apply all Howey factors. Her decision only applied the third factor, and she ruled the SEC failed to prove XRP purchasers relied on Ripple or its executives. She explicitly stated that since all Howey factors must be satisfied, there was no need to apply all the other factors. In my opinion, under the Second Circuit law, the common enterprise factor of the Howey test is much weaker for the SEC to establish than the third factor, which Torres said they didn't satisfy. And thus, even if the SEC won at the Second Circuit, which I don't believe they will, the case would be remanded to Judge Therese, and she would then apply the other Howey factors and likely rule the SEC failed to prove a common enterprise related to secondary market sales. If so, we would get the same result we have today anyway, and we'd lost a lot of money, a lot of effort, and time. If Ripple, this is number 5, lost at the Second Circuit, they would apply for certiorari to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court takes cases that involve significant legal questions or where there are conflicting decisions among different circuit courts. Rakoff ruling versus Therese ruling. Since in this case, the ruling would have broad legal significance, and considering digital assets have become so prominent, and we're talking about 1930s laws being applied to modern day tech, there's a real good chance the Supreme Court takes the case. At the Supreme Court, the SEC could lose big, and bigger than they've lost us at this point. Hence my point, appealing the Ripple ruling is a fool's errand, and I think Paul Atkins will see it that way. Now you also see why I called these unelected bureaucrats prima donnas. And that goes back to a little video which Brad Garlinghouse DAI here shared, the Ripple valuation. I've been watching Brad Garlinghouse interviews for a long time. Often you can tell when he's dying to say the quiet part out loud, but can't, because the CEO in him holds him back. Completely understandable. My gut says this is one of those times where my gut is in the right 9% of the time. And I think some of y'all want to see the video, so let's quickly go ahead and play it.
So, look, I don't think about it as a kind of there's up to the minute valuation stuff. But I think it's safe to assume that the 11 billion is very outdated at this point. The total value of the XRP we own now exceeds 100 billion. And that is, another mark. One of the things I don't know how to get my head around exactly is, the way that Ripple has traded in the secondary private markets has been at a significant discount to net asset value. Some would say MicroStrategy is comparable in some ways, but trades at I think 3x premium to net asset value. And you think, that's interesting. Again, I'm not anti MicroStrategy. I hope is a massive success and keeps doing what they're doing. And look, Ripple has been in a position where we have not prioritized going public. That didn't really make any sense in the previous SEC administration. Maybe that changes in the future, and we'll evaluate that as things unfold.
And you know what then becomes a really interesting point? And I've been thinking about this for a long time, right? Think with me here. What if indeed Ripple is a company? Because you can also trade that and buy that, by the way. Even though it's private, you can get into it if you want. If you're an accredited investor, which I hope most of you guys watching are. Not everybody, but hey, get there. If you're not there yet, grind harder, get there, right? Get yourself in the right spot, which is why a lot of people are buying XRP. Regardless, what if indeed Ripple is not properly being traded at the right value? Matter of fact, it's trading at a discount, apparently, with regards to the amount of value that they've got locked. Because if you look at the amount of XRP that they've got, and again, you can also buy Ripple. If, we're basing it upon the amount of holdings that they've got and the amount of purchasing power, theoretically speaking, that they've got and all that, indeed, Ripple as an asset is actually quite cheap still and trading at quite some low valuations if you base it in a similar way, like how MicroStrategy is valued based on their Bitcoin holdings. And I've been thinking about that for a little while here. Yeah, the Ripple from that perspective might be due for a pretty interesting growth spurt based purely on people revaluing it on their XRP holdings, that is, right? Anyway, we're all basically waiting for some bigger move to happen in the sense that even now XRP, theoretically speaking, is trading at a pretty steep discount from the value at which it should be trading if you're asking my honest opinion. And I keep looking at these pumps thinking, this is really not that big a deal. Whatever we've seen right now, it's nice to see pumps like that, but really it's not that much that we've pumped for, right? The numbers that we've been doing are not that crazy, and I'm still just waiting nearly every single day for the price to finally start making a real move, like a real move where you can write home about, say, hey man, my XRP did this, that. We've done well going to $2.90 before, and we've sustained the $2 level, $1.90. 89 point something, I think, ever since then. So we've done really, really well in terms of resilience, but nah, the real crazy gains have not happened this season just quite yet. I'm ready for it, but just know that most likely as the next weeks flow in, the 20th, right, the ball's starting to roll, SEC changes up, Trump comes into office, I think things are only going to start looking better. I just wanted you guys to know that, but mostly just sharing some of the things I found. No appeal coming, cool things coming though. Yeah, things are looking really nice. Make sure you put that notification bell on so you're always up to date whenever something crazy happens. That's about it for right now.